I woke up to the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, a familiar scent that usually brought me comfort. But this morning, an ominous feeling lingered as I scrolled through my emails. One particular message from an unknown sender caught my eye, its contents vague yet unsettling. Your husband's secrets will soon surface. Prepare yourself. Trying to shake off the unease, I joined Byron and our two teenagers, Asher and Lila, at the breakfast table. As we made small talk about school and work, I couldn't help but study Byron's face, searching for any hint of deceit. "Everything okay, honey?" Byron asked, his brow furrowing slightly. I hesitated, considering whether to voice my concerns or let it go for now. "Just feeling a little off today," I replied, forcing a smile. Asher and Lila exchanged a glance, sensing the tension, but said nothing. We finished our meal in silence, the weight of that cryptic email hanging over me like a dark cloud. Later, as Byron prepared to leave for work, I mustered the courage to confront him. "I received a strange email this morning, implying you're keeping secrets from me." His expression hardened. "What? That's absurd. You know I'd never hide anything from you." I searched his eyes for any flicker of deception, but he maintained an unwavering gaze. "I want to believe you, but this email has me unsettled." Byron sighed, pulling me close. "Morella, you're my world. You have to trust me." His embrace felt reassuring, and I nodded, forcing myself to push aside my doubts. As he kissed my forehead and headed out, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. Over the next few days, I tried to dismiss the email as a prank, but a series of strange occurrences only deepened my suspicions. I noticed unusual withdrawals from our joint account, and Byron staying out later than usual, claiming work demands. When I questioned him, he brushed it off, his responses growing increasingly curt. One evening as I cleaned up after dinner, Asher approached me hesitantly. "Mom, is everything okay between you and Dad? You two have been acting weird lately." I forced a smile, not wanting to worry my children. "It's nothing, sweetie. Just some stress at work, that's all." But the truth was, the stress was tearing me apart from the inside, and I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to uncover what Byron was hiding, no matter how painful the truth might be. In the days that followed, my suspicions about Byron's infidelity only deepened. I noticed him constantly checking his phone, a guarded expression on his face whenever I entered the room. Our once warm and loving conversations had become stilted, filled with awkward silences. One evening, as I reviewed our bank statements, a series of large withdrawals caught my eye, amounts totaling over $50,000, withdrawn without my knowledge. When I confronted Byron about it, his face flushed with anger. "It's none of your business what I do with my money," he snapped, his tone laced with venom. I recoiled, taken aback by his hostility. "Our money, Byron. We're supposed to be partners in this marriage." He scoffed, turning away from me. "You wouldn't understand. Just stay out of it." That night, as Byron slept beside me, I lay awake, my mind racing with questions. Where was all that money going? Was he truly having an affair, or was something even more sinister at play? In the following weeks, Byron's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He would disappear for hours on end, returning home well past midnight, his clothes disheveled and a strange scent lingering on him. Whenever I pressed for answers, he would brush me off with excuses about work or accuse me of being paranoid. The tension in our household was palpable, and our children couldn't help but notice. Asher, usually so carefree, became withdrawn and sullen, while Lila clung to me, sensing my distress. "Mom, what's going on with Dad?" she asked one day, her eyes brimming with tears. "He's never home anymore, and when he is, he's always angry." I pulled her close, my heart aching for the pain my family was enduring. "I'm not sure, sweetheart, but I promise I'll get to the bottom of this." As the days turned into weeks, Byron's absences became more frequent and his lies more blatant. I knew I couldn't confront him again without solid evidence. I needed proof of his wrongdoings. One night, as he hastily dressed to leave yet again, I mustered the courage to follow him. Tailing his car from a safe distance, I watched as he pulled up to a nondescript apartment complex in the city. My heart raced as I witnessed him enter one of the units, emerging nearly 2 hours later with a woman by his side. The sight of Byron embracing this stranger, laughing and caressing her in plain view, shattered what little was left of my trust. Tears streamed down my face as the harsh reality sank in. My husband, the man I had loved and trusted for over 2 decades, was not only cheating on me, but leading a double life shrouded in secrecy and deceit. As I drove home that night, a newfound determination coursed through me. Byron's betrayal had finally been exposed, and I knew it was time to take action, no matter the cost. In the days following my discovery of Byron's affair, I found myself consumed by a whirlwind of emotions: anger, betrayal, and a burning desire for retribution. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a newfound strength emerged within me, fueling my determination to uncover the full extent of his deception. As Byron continued his late-night escapades, oblivious to my knowledge of his infidelity, I meticulously documented every suspicious activity, every unexplained absence. I needed concrete evidence to expose him, and I was willing to go to great lengths to obtain it. One evening, as I sifted through our mail, a plain white envelope caught my eye. No return address, just my name scrawled in an unfamiliar handwriting. My heart raced as I tore it open, revealing a single sheet of paper with a cryptic message: "The truth you seek lies deeper than you know. Proceed with caution." A chill ran down my spine, but I knew I couldn't back down now. I had come too far to let fear hold me back. Whatever Byron was involved in, it was clear that his transgressions went far beyond a simple affair. That night, as Byron slipped out under the guise of another late meeting, I made a decision. I would follow him again, this time determined to uncover the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. Tailing his car through the winding city streets, I watched as he entered the same nondescript apartment complex from before. But this time, instead of leaving shortly after, he remained inside for hours. As the night dragged on, my mind raced with possibilities. Was he meeting with his mistress, or was there something more sinister at play? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I remained resolute, waiting patiently for any clue that might shed light on Byron's secret life. Finally, just before dawn, Byron emerged from the building, his expression tense and his movements furtive. I trailed him discreetly, my heart pounding in my chest, until he reached a secluded alleyway. There he met with a group of men, their hushed tones and furtive glances suggesting something far more nefarious than a simple rendezvous. As I strained to make out their conversation, fragments reached my ears, whispers of money laundering, offshore accounts, and covering our tracks. My blood ran cold as the realization hit me. Byron wasn't just cheating on me. He was involved in illegal activities, potentially putting our entire family at risk. In that moment, my determination solidified into a burning resolve. I would stop at nothing to expose Byron's crimes and bring him to justice, no matter the personal cost. As the men dispersed, I followed Byron, committing every detail to memory: the streets he took, the buildings he passed, the people he interacted with. When he finally returned home, feigning normalcy as if nothing had transpired, I met his gaze with a steely determination. "We need to talk," I said, my voice unwavering. Byron's eyes narrowed, sensing the shift in my demeanor. "About what?" "About the truth," I replied, my mind already formulating a plan of action. "And the lies you've been living." With the realization that Byron was involved in illegal activities beyond his affair, I knew I needed concrete evidence to expose him. I couldn't rely solely on my word against his. I needed undeniable proof that would hold up in court. The next day, while Byron was at work, I made a call to a private investigator recommended by a friend. Within hours, a sharp-eyed man named Derek arrived at my doorstep, his demeanor professional yet understanding. "Mrs. Carlson, I'm here to help you uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be," he said, his voice low and reassuring. I invited him inside, my heart racing with a mixture of trepidation and determination. Over the next hour, I laid out every detail of Byron's suspicious behavior, from the unexplained withdrawals to the late-night meetings and the cryptic messages. Derek listened intently, taking meticulous notes. When I finished, he nodded grimly. "It sounds like your husband is involved in something far more sinister than just an affair. We'll need to dig deeper to uncover the full extent of his activities." Over the next week, Derek worked tirelessly, trailing Byron's every move, combing through financial records, and conducting discreet interviews with anyone who might have information. Each evening, he would return with new pieces of the puzzle, slowly painting a disturbing picture of Byron's double life. The evidence mounted rapidly. Byron had been diverting funds from our joint savings into offshore accounts, funneling money through a complex web of shell companies and false identities. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Derek uncovered links to a massive money laundering operation, with Byron at the center of it all. As the truth unraveled, my shock and disbelief gave way to a burning anger. This man, the person I had loved and trusted for years, had not only betrayed our marriage, but put our entire family's well-being at risk with his criminal activities. "How much money are we talking about?" I asked Derek one evening, my voice trembling with rage. He looked at me solemnly, sliding a thick folder across the table. "Over $3 million, siphoned from your accounts over the past 5 years. I felt the air leave my lungs, the sheer magnitude of Byron's deceit overwhelming me. $3 million, our hard-earned savings, our children's college funds, our entire financial security, all stolen by the man who had vowed to love and protect us. In that moment, any lingering doubts or hesitation dissipated. I knew what I had to do. I would bring Byron's house of lies crumbling down no matter the personal cost. With Derek's help, I meticulously compiled all the evidence, financial records, surveillance footage, witness statements, until we had an airtight case against Byron. The night before our scheduled meeting with my lawyer, I sat down with Asher and Lila, my heart heavy with the burden of shattering their perception of their father. "Kids, there's something you need to know about your dad," I began, my voice wavering. "He's been lying to us, doing terrible things behind our backs." As I laid out the truth, the affair, the money laundering, the stolen millions, their faces contorted with shock and disbelief, tears streaming down their cheeks. "How could he do this to us?" Asher choked out, his voice thick with anguish. I pulled them both close, my own tears mingling with theirs. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I promise you your father will face justice for what he's done. We'll get through this together, as a family." With their support and Derek's unwavering commitment, I steeled myself for the battle ahead. Byron's reign of deception was about to come crashing down, and I would be the one to bring him to his knees. The day had finally arrived, the moment when Byron's web of lies would unravel before our very eyes. As we gathered around the dinner table for our usual family meal, the tension in the air was palpable. Asher and Lila exchanged nervous glances, sensing the storm that was about to be unleashed. Byron, oblivious to the impending confrontation, prattled on about his day at work, his tone nonchalant as he helped himself to a generous portion of food. I watched him closely, my jaw clenched, barely able to contain the fury bubbling within me. "Everything okay, honey?" he asked, finally taking notice of the heavy silence that had descended upon the table. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "No, Byron, everything is not okay." With trembling hands, I slid the thick folder of evidence across the table towards him. "I know about your affairs. I know about the money laundering, the offshore accounts, the stolen millions." Byron's face drained of color as he flipped through the damning documents, his eyes widening with each page. "Morella, I can explain." "Save it," I snapped, cutting him off. "Your lies have gone on long enough. The kids know everything, too." Asher and Lila stared at their father with a mixture of hurt and disgust, their eyes glistening with unshed tears. "How could you do this to us, Dad?" Asher's voice shook with barely contained rage. "We trusted you, and you've been living this double life, stealing from us, putting our entire family at risk." Byron's gaze shifted between us, his expression shifting from shock to defiance. "You have no idea what you're talking about," he snarled. "I did what I had to do to provide for this family. By breaking the law, by cheating on Mom and stealing our savings?" Lila's voice rose, her hands trembling. "We could have lost everything because of your greed and selfishness." Byron's face contorted with anger, and for a moment I feared he might lash out physically. But then his shoulders slumped, and he let out a bitter laugh. "Fine. You want the truth? I did it all for the thrill, the power, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat." My heart shattered at his callous admission, the realization that the man I had loved was nothing more than a cold, calculating criminal. Asher and Lila recoiled as if struck, their father's words cutting deeper than any physical blow. "Get out," I said, my voice low and steady. "Pack your things and get out of this house. You're no longer welcome here." Byron's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a sneer. "You can't do this to me. This is my house, my family." "Not anymore." I met his gaze unflinchingly. "The authorities are already on their way. You're going to pay for what you've done, Byron. Every last cent, every lie, every betrayal." As if on cue, the doorbell rang, and a pair of stern-faced detectives entered, flanked by Derek, the private investigator who had helped uncover Byron's crimes. Without a word, they approached Byron, slapping handcuffs on his wrists as he protested futilely. "Byron Carlson, you're under arrest for money laundering, fraud, and embezzlement," one of the detectives stated, reading him his rights. Asher and Lila clung to each other, tears streaming down their faces as they watched their father being led away in disgrace. Byron shot me one final, venomous glare over his shoulder, a silent promise of retribution. But in that moment, I felt no fear, only a sense of relief and justice. The nightmare was finally over, and Byron's reign of deception had come to a crashing end. As the detectives ushered Byron into the waiting squad car, I pulled my children close, vowing to rebuild our lives from the ashes of his betrayal. It would be a long and difficult road, but with the truth laid bare, we could finally begin to heal. In the weeks following Byron's arrest, our lives were thrown into chaos. The once respected Carlson name became a source of mockery and derision, as the sordid details of Byron's crimes plastered the headlines. Neighbors who had once waved and smiled now averted their gazes, whispering behind cupped hands as we passed. Asher and Lila bore the brunt of the humiliation, enduring taunts and sneers from their classmates, whose parents had undoubtedly filled their ears with rumors and exaggerations. I ached for them, wishing I could shield them from the harsh judgments of a community that had once embraced us. As for me, I found myself navigating a legal minefield, court appearances, meetings with lawyers, and the arduous process of untangling the financial web Byron had woven. Each day brought new revelations, new betrayals to grapple with, as the full extent of his duplicity came to light. One afternoon, as I sat across from our family attorney, poring over yet another stack of damning documents, the weight of it all threatened to overwhelm me. "Morella, I'm afraid there's more," the lawyer said, his tone grave. "We've uncovered evidence that Byron had been funneling money to offshore accounts for years, effectively draining your joint savings." My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages, the numbers blurring together in a dizzying array of zeros. Millions of dollars, our hard-earned nest egg, our children's future, gone in the blink of an eye, stolen by the man I had once trusted with everything. "How could he do this?" I whispered, my voice cracking with anguish. "How could he betray us like this?" The lawyer offered a sympathetic look, but his words were little consolation. "I'm afraid Byron's greed knew no bounds. He was willing to sacrifice everything, including his own family, for personal gain." As the reality of Byron's actions sank in, a newfound determination took root within me. If he thought he could leave us destitute, stripped of our dignity and financial security, he was sorely mistaken. In the days that followed, I became a woman possessed, channeling every ounce of my energy into ensuring that Byron faced the full consequences of his actions. I pored over legal documents, coordinated with investigators, and rallied the support of the community, determined to see justice served. But Byron, even from behind bars, remained defiant. One evening, as I sat alone in the kitchen, the phone rang, a blocked number that sent a chill down my spine. "Hello, Morella," a chillingly familiar voice drawled. "Miss me?" Byron's taunting tone sent a wave of revulsion coursing through me. "What do you want?" I spat, my grip tightening on the receiver. "Just a friendly reminder," he sneered. "You think you've won, but this is far from over. If you don't back off, there'll be consequences, for you and the kids." My blood ran cold at his thinly veiled threat, but I refused to be cowed. "Is that supposed to scare me, Byron? You're the one behind bars, facing a lifetime of prison. Your reign of terror is over." He let out a mirthless chuckle. "We'll see about that. Remember, I know things that could ruin you if they ever came to light." With trembling hands, I scrambled for my phone, recording the tail end of his menacing words. "You just made a big mistake," I said, my voice steely with resolve. "This call is all the evidence I need to make sure you never see the light of day again." There was a beat of silence, and then Byron erupted with a string of curses and threats that sent a chill down my spine. But I remained resolute, clutching the phone like a lifeline, until the line went dead. In that moment, any lingering doubt or hesitation evaporated. Byron had threatened my family, our future, and for that, he would pay dearly. I would see to it that he received the harshest punishment possible, no matter what it took. As I set the phone down, a newfound sense of determination coursed through me. Byron's desperate attempts at intimidation had only strengthened my resolve. The battle lines had been drawn, and I was prepared to fight with every ounce of my being to protect my children and secure our future. The war was far from over, but I was ready to face Byron's wrath head-on and emerge victorious, no matter the cost. The day of Byron's trial dawned with a sense of foreboding. As I stood before the courthouse, surrounded by a sea of reporters and cameras, I steeled myself for the battle ahead. This was the moment of reckoning, the culmination of months spent meticulously piecing together the evidence of Byron's betrayal. Asher and Lila flanked me, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and determination. Though the ordeal had taken an immense toll on them, they remained steadfastly by my side, united in our pursuit of justice. As we entered the courtroom, Byron sat at the defendant's table, his once confident demeanor replaced by a sullen scowl. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw a flicker of fear cross his features, a realization that the walls were closing in, his carefully constructed web of lies unraveling before him. The prosecution wasted no time in laying out the damning evidence against Byron: financial records, witness testimonies, and even the recorded phone call where he had threatened our family. Each piece of evidence was a bullet aimed squarely at his credibility, chipping away at the facade of respectability he had so carefully cultivated. When it was my turn to take the stand, I did so with an unwavering resolve. Recounting the painful details of Byron's deception, I held nothing back, exposing the full extent of his betrayal, the lies, the affairs, the stolen millions. He deceived us all, I stated, my voice ringing clear across the hushed courtroom. He took advantage of our trust, our love, and used it to fuel his own greed and selfish desires. As I spoke, I caught Byron's eye once more, and this time I saw a flicker of rage, a desperate attempt to cling to the illusion of control he had so arrogantly wielded over us for years. But I refused to be intimidated. With each word, I felt the weight of his oppression lifting, replaced by a newfound sense of empowerment and freedom. The prosecution's case was airtight, bolstered by the mountain of evidence we had painstakingly gathered. Byron's defense team scrambled to deflect and obfuscate, but their arguments rang hollow in the face of the overwhelming truth. When the verdict was finally read, guilty on all counts, a collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Byron slumped in his seat, his mask of arrogance finally cracking as the realization of his downfall sank in. As the judge handed down a lengthy prison sentence and hefty fines, stripping Byron of his ill-gotten gains, I felt a surge of vindication. This was more than just justice served. It was a resounding victory over the man who had sought to destroy our lives. Asher and Lila embraced me, tears of relief and joy mingling on their cheeks. The nightmare was finally over, and we could begin to rebuild our lives on the foundations of truth and integrity. Yet even in defeat, Byron couldn't resist one final act of defiance. As he was led away in handcuffs, he turned to face me, his eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over, Morella," he spat, his words dripping with venom. "I'll make sure you and those brats pay for this." But his threats held no power over me anymore. In that moment, I pitied him. A broken man consumed by his own greed and hubris, reduced to a shadow of his former self. As the courtroom emptied, reporters clamoring for statements and interviews, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. We had emerged from the ashes of Byron's betrayal, battered but unbroken, our bonds of love and resilience stronger than ever. The road ahead would be long and challenging, but with the truth laid bare and justice served, we could finally begin to heal and embrace the promise of a brighter future, free from the shackles of Byron's lies. The aftermath of Byron's trial was a whirlwind of emotions: relief, vindication, and a newfound sense of freedom. With the truth laid bare and justice served, Asher, Lila, and I could finally begin the process of rebuilding our lives, free from the shadow of his betrayal. The first order of business was securing our financial future. Thanks to the court's ruling, a portion of Byron's ill-gotten gains would be returned to us, providing a much-needed safety net as we navigated the uncertain road ahead. With the weight of his deception lifted, I found myself able to breathe freely for the first time in years. Gone were the sleepless nights spent agonizing over his lies, replaced by a newfound determination to forge a brighter path for our family. Asher and Lila, though still reeling from the shocking revelation of their father's true nature, rallied around me with a strength and resilience that filled me with pride. Together, we made the difficult decision to sell our family home. The sight of so many cherished memories, now tainted by Byron's actions, and start anew. As we searched for a fresh beginning, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we had come. From the depths of despair and betrayal, we had emerged stronger, more united than ever before. One afternoon, as we explored a charming neighborhood filled with tree-lined streets and quaint shops, Lila tugged at my sleeve, her eyes alight with excitement. "Mom, look," she exclaimed, pointing to a for sale sign adorning a cozy 2-story house. "Can we check it out?" Asher joined her, his face mirroring her enthusiasm, and in that moment I saw a glimpse of the carefree children they had once been, untainted by the weight of Byron's lies. We stepped inside the house, and instantly, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The warm, inviting spaces seemed to radiate a sense of peace and possibility, a blank canvas upon which we could paint the vibrant future we so desperately craved. "What do you think?" I asked, turning to Asher and Lila with a hopeful smile. Their answering grins said it all. This was the fresh start we had been yearning for, a sanctuary where we could heal and forge new memories, free from the shadows of the past. In the weeks that followed, we poured our hearts into transforming the house into a home, a haven of love, laughter, and unwavering support. Asher and Lila's bedrooms became sanctuaries of self-expression, their walls adorned with vibrant colors and cherished mementos. As for me, I found solace in the kitchen, rediscovering the simple joys of cooking and sharing meals as a family, something that had been lost in the turmoil of Byron's deceit. Each evening, we would gather around the table, sharing stories and reveling in the newfound peace that had settled over our lives. But our journey was far from complete. With the financial stability provided by the court's ruling, I made the bold decision to pursue a long-held dream, starting my own business. The idea had been simmering for years, a seed planted during happier times that had been buried beneath the weight of Byron's betrayal. But now, with a newfound sense of empowerment and determination, I was ready to nurture that seed and watch it blossom. With the unwavering support of Asher and Lila, I poured countless hours into researching, planning, and laying the groundwork for my venture. Each step was a testament to our resilience, a reminder that we had not only survived Byron's treachery, but emerged stronger and more united than ever before. As the grand opening day approached, a sense of nervous excitement filled the air. Asher and Lila rallied around me, offering encouragement and lending a hand wherever they could, their eyes shining with pride and belief in our shared dream. When the doors finally opened and the first customers trickled in, I felt a surge of accomplishment unlike anything I had ever experienced. This was more than just a business. It was a symbol of our triumph over adversity, a beacon of hope and possibility shining brightly in the wake of Byron's darkness. As the days turned into weeks, our little venture thrived, buoyed by the unwavering support of our community, the same people who had once turned a blind eye to Byron's deceit. Now they rallied around us, offering kindness, encouragement, and a shared sense of purpose. In those moments, as I watched Asher and Lila blossom into confident, compassionate individuals, I knew that we had not only survived Byron's betrayal, but emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected than ever before. The road ahead was still long and uncertain, but with our newfound strength and unity, we were ready to embrace whatever challenges life threw our way. Byron's reign of terror was a distant memory, replaced by a future brimming with love, laughter, and the unbreakable bonds of family.